Hello everyone. We're going to have some commentary over the presentation today to try and stick in some additional points that you guys should make note of. We're going to be discussing the evolution of the dietary guidelines and how that pertains to us from where it began to where we are now. We need to do a little discussion on the United States Department of Agriculture, which is who is behind all of these different programs throughout history, and the Center for Nutrition Policy and Promotion. They're important to mention because it gives us an idea of who's actually giving us all of this information and the guidelines that we're supposed to be following. And you can see the first three people or types of people are nutritionists, nutrition scientists, and dietitians. Thank goodness we have people in the medical fields that are giving us this information based off of hopefully very accurate studies. The economists and policy experts, those are people that are more so involved with making sure information is being given to consumers, and also that when policy is written that it's legal. So I'm not saying they're not important, but for what we're focusing on, those three first groups of people are the most important to us. You can go ahead and read through the three goals that they have in their mission. But those are things that it's just kind of good background information for us all to know. You can see from the beginning, it starts what looks like a very involved diagram to now actually pretty simplified for the most part, but it does change throughout time. So the first one, 1940 to 1955, the basic seven. No, this is not my generation, ha ha ha. But some things we should make mention of here. Vegetables and fruits are actually broken up into two different groups. Leafy green and yellow vegetables were a group to themselves. Citrus fruit, tomatoes, and raw cabbage were an interesting group as well. But then potatoes and other fruits and vegetables fell into another group all by themselves. Dairy, probably one of the most consistent groups over time, along with meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dried peas, and beans, along with breads, flours, cereals, and grains. The one thing you'll notice here, though, is that butter does not fall under dairy. It was actually grouped with fortified margarine, and another thing that should be mentioned is there is no mention of sweets or oils or alcohol. Then to where my generation would fall is the four basic food groups. We go from very specific to very general. No mention in the actual diagram in terms of servings, but it does talk about four groups: fruits and vegetables still being clumped together, dairy by itself, meat by itself, and grains by itself. From there we go to the next generation, which is the hassle-free daily food guide. For the most part, the groups stayed the same. Fruits and vegetables still combined. One difference, though, is that the addition of alcohol as well as sweets and fats, and the idea behind this being included was to make sure people used them in moderation. Which then progressed to the food wheel, which is where we actually start to get a little bit change in terms of the division of fruits and vegetables and actual more specific servings of each. Now that's just based on then the dietary guidelines of how much how many servings each person should get, but was not based on anything other than a general population, nothing specific. Alcohol and sweets were still in moderation, but fats were actually given a limit, which was no more than 30% in the diet. We then progressed to your guys' generation, which is the food guide pyramid. The idea behind this was to organize the information in what you should have the most of at the bottom to what you should have the least of at the top. Alcohol is now dropped completely. And there was a small key that was added, and you would actually find the food guide pyramid along with this key on a lot of products when you go to the store. But the key mentioned fats and sugars that were either naturally occurring or added to foods. And then we've got the My Food Guide system, or guidance system. The word my is actually included for the first time to give ownership to the people in the United States that they should take control of their own diet. color groups actually start to match. So we can see that they were grouped according to color. And here on the mypyramid.gov, you can also see that the amount of space of each one or of each color was supposed to give each user an idea of how much they should be getting in a day. And finally, to where we are now. The choose my plate was given because the reference makes sense. Pretty much everybody eats their food off of a plate, and the plate was supposed to refer to each section and its size, what we should be getting in a day. And then along with that, when you go onto the site, things are much more specific in terms of servings based on age, based on gender, and then that way consumers are not supposed to overeat. There's a few questions below this presentation, so go ahead and go through that, and good luck. If you have questions, feel free to ask me.